Hey guys, Infidel1258. So we got a new promo card that's launching, not promo card, we got a new airdrop card that we've been revealed through the recent town hall. If you're new to this channel, I want you to know my name is Dwayne Cunningham. I go by Infidel1258, but you can just call me 12. Leave comments or questions in every video. I review them regularly and try to turn that into content. So if you've got questions or critiques even, I'll go through them and do my best to answer. But today we're just responding to the town hall, and I just want to let you know, if you don't already track with the town hall, you need to be doing that. Splinterlands official, 4,000 subs, huge community of active participants in these lives. We're talking 135 active viewers in the middle of the stream that I noticed. That's significant. That's really significant. And I think that is one little marker I want to point us to how this is a critical moment for Splinterlands. People are watching, people are excited. Without further ado though, let's get into Venka the Vile. And this is her max level stats. I popped into Discord to see if they would have the, the various levels. They don't at this moment, at least. Maybe later today they will. But I just want to give an initial reaction to this because we do even have a new ability in this, and I want to talk about that too. Adam, it'll be interesting to see what the other levels do, but we can see by the background we're dealing with a neutral monster, which is very exciting. Every time you see that neutral, you know that you're dealing with something that can impact various metas, not just one team. And I love the artwork as well, by the way. The face looks just so ferocious, and it seems to really fit with this new, I think they called it charge, this new charge ability. Let's touch that first. That ability will enable this melee monster to attack the first position of your opponent from any position. So this is like, in a sense, it's like the ability to have, well, there's no other better way to say it. It's, you can attack the enemy first position from any position. And I love that because it's like a superior version of Reach. It's another massive melee monster that has a kit that really leans into its melee damage. And I would argue and the speed too, by the way. Man, this kit seems really amazing. Nate, look at these eyeballs, by the way. Nate said he thought that this was overpowered, and Matt said he thought it's good then when new airdrops are overpowered, because we want them to be attractive, exciting. You don't want them to be lackluster. That's a paraphrase, not a quote. And I do look at this and I think overpowered. I think, at minimum, maybe that I wouldn't use that phrase, but I would say definitely extremely powerful. And it is a legendary. So do you expect legendaries, especially legendary airdrops, to be underwhelming? I mean, they shouldn't be. They absolutely should. When you look at them, you should say to yourself, that is a card I need to have. And I think, again, we're going to say that with this card. That charge ability, with that functionality, with this massive 7 bomb, the only real reason this would be an impairment or like an underwhelming card, the scenario in which it would be an underwhelming card would probably be where you drop it and your opponent uses force field, or maybe where you drop it and the rule set gives everybody opportunity attack, meaning 6 hit points is perhaps vulnerable to being attacked and killed, and it has no shield, no void, no armor. And so, as 6 is not nothing, but you could be spiked dead by an opposing Venka if this was vulnerable. And again, it would be made vulnerable in that rule set where every card has the opportunity attack ability. And so that would be one condition, maybe one condition where I'd be uniquely concerned about it. Now, it would be vulnerable to thorns. It would definitely be vulnerable to amp thorns. You're going to die relatively quickly in that context. But I like this card for a lot of reasons. I'm saying, if your opponent doesn't have force field, if your opponent doesn't predict your melee attack, and there are scenarios where it's gonna be super clear you're focusing on melee. You don't want to maybe lean into something like this in those contexts, but where you have that sort of flexibility to occasionally drop magic and then archery and then melee, you keep your opponent guessing on your last 5 battles. I think a card like this is absolutely going to be an ace. It's a significant damage, man. This being in the 3rd spot and dropping a 7 bomb on that tank. And by the way, if you think blue team, for instance, high speed, you go maybe Demon Shark, which has significant speed depending on whether or not the rage procs, especially higher levels I'm talking. And then you've got maybe in the 2nd position the Coastal Sentry, which has a double striking 5 bomb at higher levels. And then in the 3rd position, Venka the Vile, you're talking what might be 18, 25 damage from your 3 frontal melee monsters on the first position. And we have seen also, you know, the utilization of taunt by opponents. And I'm thinking right now of the soulbound monster from the white team that has taunt and magic damage, Izzyar. So a lot of people use Izzyar in the back line in order to predictably control their opponent. And so what you'll see with the white team is like sometimes a triple triage with the Izzyar. And in the front line, they might use that Rift Watcher card, this guy. And they might put Inevitable in the first position, which has a triage, and then they'll put, you know, there's two or three other triages you can drop, and what ends up happening is this guy's very resilient, Inevitable in the front line with the shield and the, you know, the immunity. And so the question is, how do you get through this thing when half of your own monsters are being distracted by Izzyar? That's what people will do. And so if that's a play that you're worried that, you know, you see your opponent dropping, one of the counter plays now I think is going to become, and it already has been, full frontal assault with melee, meaning you put, for instance, you know, 2 massive double strikers in your first and second position, and there's a growing number of those, whether it's armor strike and then a melee, or whether it's a double strike melee from the first or second position. That's kind of the focus fire that you need, because the first and second monsters on your team are going to be melee focused. They're going to fire at the primary tank, which is the Inevitable, and you might get through the Inevitable. And that's usually the path to victory, because the Izzyar, especially at level 3 and 4, has that has the Martyr. And so this to me, I'm saying Venka the Vile fits in like a counter meta toward the Izzyar, because it's going to focus on the primary tank of your opponent because of the charge functionality. It's not going to go at the taunt, I don't believe, because they did specifically say in the video it's going to hit the first position. And so, you know, huge melee damage, huge speed, neutrality, reasonable amount of hit points. Again, you can bury it in the 3rd, 4th, 5th spot if you want, so the 6 hit points aren't necessarily a deal breaker. And then you come in with the charge, which is such an interesting functionality and a new way to really focus fire those main tanks at the front line. Another example is obviously Grimbarden Smith, and you got Grimbarden Smith, and if your opponent has Grimbarden Smith in the first spot, Venka the Vile is going to help you get a 1-2-3 combo focus firing that front line. And so for those reasons, I think this card's really powerful, not to mention the piercing, not to mention the oppress, which is almost directly, I would say, a Grimbarden Smith indirect nerf. This oppress with this damage, with this speed, this is going to slap and trample and rip through the exact play I just talked about, Izzyar or Grimbarden Smith. And I would say that this is intentionally designed for that focus, because of the that's a bit of a meta play right now. Just out survive my opponent. And Grimbarden Smith is a beneficiary to that approach. It's resilient enough with the repair, with the immunity. So is the Inevitable, and in those ways, I think Venka the Vile is going to help create a response to that. I'm not saying it's going to counter or silence or eliminate the value of those other options, those defensive options I mentioned, but this is a play that will definitely speak into the win rates of those cards, Inevitable and Grimbarden Smith. That's my prediction, because the oppress with that 7 bomb is going to hit your Grimbarden Smith with the double damage, and the trample is just crazy too. That means, you know, I bet a couple times a game you're going to see this thing trample, which is like a free 7 bomb every time it happens. And in those trample rule sets, it's always great to have this. Plus, with it being neutral, it can fit into any one of your teams, meaning that when that trample rule set comes along, you can throw Venka the Vile in no matter which team. To me, this is better than Kai. Maybe not. You know, it's hard to say. I don't know if I even want to say that. They're just so different. This card is powerful. I need to have it. I think it's definitely a must-have. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Have an amazing day. God bless.